MSI B760 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi is something like a Swiss Army knife in the world of motherboards, since while MSI targets this board towards gamers, its nature is more like a budget workstation motherboard. Starting with the VRMs, MSI has done an excellent job. The motherboard has strong VRMs capable of powering Intel 12th to 14th gen CPUs effortlessly. With a 12-phase setup at 60 amps, it can handle an Intel Core i9-14900K at stock settings. If it weren't a B760 motherboard, I would have comfortably overclocked an i5-14600K beyond 5.3 GHz thanks to the beefy VRM. The strong VRM is coupled with an excellent heatsink that keeps temperatures below 70 degrees Celsius even under heavy all-core loads. The rear I/O is excellent, but I feel there could be some improvements. There are a total of 7 USB ports at the back, with 4 of them being USB 2.0 Type A ports, which means you don't have to sacrifice faster ports to run peripherals. But then there are just 3 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, of which 2 are Type A and 1 is a Type C port. MSI should have added more USB 3.2 ports, but even with that out of the way, the rest of the I/O is near perfect. You get HDMI 2.1, DisplayPort 1.4, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3, 2.5 gigabit Ether LAN, and even a PS2 port for legacy devices. The rear I/O has a full set of 5 audio jacks with an optical SPDIF connected to a mid-ranged Realtek ALC 897 codec for good sound quality. Moving down to the PCIe expansion, I find it strange that MSI felt the need to have 5 full-size PCIe slots on this board. This would have been amazing if these weren't also electrically times 16 slots, but the reality is disappointing. This is where I feel like MSI went overboard and should have used 1 or 2 fewer PCIe slots and instead had another M2 slot for SSDs. Only the very first PCIe slot is a full times 16 PCIe 4.0 slot, which would be used by the graphics card. The third PCIe slot is a times 4 PCIe 4.0 slot, while the second, fourth, and fifth slots are only PCIe 3.0 times 1 slots. Other than 5 PCIe slots, there are just 2 PCIe 4.0 M2 slots and 4 SATA 3 ports, which disappointed me the most. MSI should have added at least 1 more M2 slot, even if it came at the cost of replacing a full-length PCIe slot. Just this change alone would have made the MSI B760 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi perhaps the most well-balanced B760 motherboard. When it comes to the design, the board has a premium look and feel, but the design itself is quite simple. Personally, I like the design because the simple look helps the motherboard fit in any PC without bringing any attention to itself. If you're a fan of RGB, you can always use the RGB headers to connect as many lights as you'd like. When it comes to the competition, there are plenty of great options to choose from when looking for a budget motherboard. The best alternative is probably the Gigabyte B760 Aorus Elite AX, as it offers very similar features to the MSI B760 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi. The Aorus Elite AX also has a 12-phase VRM and a couple more USB 3 Type A ports, but the B760 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi has 5 audio jacks with SPDIF instead of the Aorus Elite that has 2 jacks with SPDIF. Except for that, while the Aorus Elite has 2 more M2 slots, it costs much more than the MSI Gaming Plus Wi-Fi. At that point, it makes more sense to invest in a budget Z790 board instead of a high-end B760 board. In conclusion, the MSI B760 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi wins over all B760 boards in terms of value. You get a powerful VRM, plenty of PCIe expansion, and a great I/O to cover all your needs. It is reliable and a very easy motherboard to recommend to anyone who wants to build a powerful Intel Alder Lake or Raptor Lake on a budget. To sum up, what I like is the powerful VRMs, the excellent I/O, and the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth support out of the box. On the downside, there are only 2 M2 slots, and the BIOS flash and CMOS clear buttons are missing. Our rating for VRM design is 8.5 out of 10. Features, 7.5 out of 10. Aesthetics, 7 out of 10. Value for money, 9 out of 10. For an overall rating of 8.5 out of 10.